Hey there, Internet. Let's see. Got the chat up in YouTube. And if you look in the description text, you'll see a link to Discord, which should get you access to my live. I've got like also the same videos there and at a lower frame rate, and the audio chat is up. Which I tend to notice better because I don't have to look up to see the chat on YouTube. So, hey, like the description text mentions, I got it's actually been a little while now, but YouTube sent me like their official email notice that congratulations, you're at 10,000 subscribers. So yeah, I was just saying that I was gonna pass that mark about was it a week or 2 weeks ago? And I pondered the idea of doing a challenge or something. I don't know. But the number went up and down a couple times, and I got busy. So I never did. Oh, that's the wrong layer. Window for history. We're good. So this looks a little different than if you were here for one of my last videos, because this is a different story. Oh, I'm on white. That's why. There we go. And I'm experimenting. Let's vary. Changes that. Okay, that's good. Oh, we're super soft. Ah. Nice. It's too dark. Oh, it's so easy to blend. So the first book of Dream Life I did with ink washes. It was on paper, of course. I like the look. I want to maintain that. And I did the first few pages in Photoshop of book 2. So what I'm doing right now is, for the first time, sitting down to work through some watercolor brushes. Look up for a second, check my things and bobbins. So I don't see anyone in the chat on Discord. If anyone Not say anything here. On YouTube. One watching. Okay. Well, that's fine. Go back to just focus on the work. Again, if you want my attention to the degree that I can talk, I've got a channel open over on the Discord. Look at the description text for the link in the doobly-doo, as some call it. Yeah. Well, I like it. This is a lot more buttery and smooth than it was doing it in Photoshop. I'm going to still want to induce. There was a noise layer, which if I need to, I can pull a copy of. If I can't generate one here in Clip Studio, I can make a copy of one from Photoshop. And that introduced enough texture in the tones to, along with the organic strokes, give a very similar impression to what the old ink wash on paperwork looked like. If you're interested in the first book, Dream Life Book 1, again, in my description text, you will find links to where to buy my comics, either digitally or in print. And I sell Dream Life digitally myself from Gumroad, and then it's also, I believe, available for Kindle, and it's on Amazon, or from Gumroad again. You can order a print copy from me. It's basically just me ordering it for you, but I do get a little more. I think I get a little more money that way, maybe. Depends on the market and the current shipping rates, but also from sorry, I'm distracted thinking about values. When you order for me, I think it's nice because I get an interaction with, I know who's selling and I can thank them, who's buying. It's not quite the same thing as signing a book. It doesn't come from my house because they're print on demand, but it's a bit of a personal touch. Also on Patreon, if you stick around long enough as a backer, I'll generally start sending you books. It takes a little while, especially if you just, if you go for the $2 a month level, that'd be great actually to have, about 300 or so people supporting at that level. I think of it as like a subscription model, and that would pay my bills, and you would get access to all my digital books. And then what I usually do is, if someone's been sticking around for more than a year, I'll start sending them some of the trade paperbacks. I'll write and ask which ones they might already have if they do. Brush density, and let's make it a soft one because that's gonna go better with watercolor. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, better blending tools. I like to have, yeah, similar. Those freckles need to be lightened. So this is what holds are. You can see my layer organization. I've got a paper background, the lines which were done in action. This line work was done in Photoshop a while back, and then I've imported it as a flat layer. It's unfortunate that TIFF's layers and don't open in Clip Studio as layers. At least I haven't figured out how to yet. Then I've got a layer for washes and a layer for lighting. But this one is holds, and that is so I can go in and there we go. I need to lighten. I've got A very light brush right now. Do that. There we go. And it lets me do a value hold on the line work when I want to. So not all the lines are hard or as hard. I especially like it for these interior little markers. I can anticipate I'm going to be doing this set at the window. We'll do that now while I'm in this mode. I've got I remember use my hotkeys. Much more comfortable. They got scrambled for a bit there, and I'd been lazy about reprogramming them, so I got into the habit of using my keyboard again. But the XP Pen tablet I have has got like 8 hotkeys. One of them is a dedicated one for the tablet controls. So these are 7 programmable plus a wheel. And the wheel's nice for zoom-ins. And I've got all my key tools for drawing back programmed into there, so I can rotate and switch between brush and pen real fast, and select colors, and undo and do's, and grab the page. So it's a nice. I got it dialed in. You know, dial it in. Sweet. Let me just check something. Are you guys hearing me? Looks like the levels are. Yeah, it looks like levels are on. And there I see. Yes. All right. YouTube says there are 2 of you watching now. Well, hello there, lawyers. All right, that's good. Looking good. Let's get back to our neck. I always want to go back to black. That's why. Oops. Doing the whole layer again. Undo. Oh, is it not working? Alright. Okay, fix this. And then go back to wash and get this. So I definitely want to do lighter amount of paint back down. There we are. Still even a little dark. Small brush. There we go. No, that is not right. There we go. I kind of left it open down there, didn't I? Did I want to do that? I'm not sure I do. Oh yeah, no, I ever see why now. Tangents, folks. It's good to break tangents. I don't want the structures of these here to mirror up into the panel above. I didn't want to change the panel above, so I left a gap to avoid tangents. There's nothing there. What's it trying to remove? There ain't nothing there. So, I don't know what will come of it. It's probably not the first time I'm going to put out... Oops, that's the wrong mode. Not the first time I'm going to put out a feeler for this. Things have been slow enough with the pandemic and all that I think I need to act on a past and ongoing strategy, which is, as a freelancer, it's always being ready to shift gears and move your focus in terms of what you're getting income from early enough that you avoid serious crack-ups. And I feel like it is time to do that. So I looked around, and after a little bit of consideration and noticing that there were some job opportunities, I applied to a local animation studio, one of Montreal's biggest. And we'll see. I've worked in animation before. Things have changed. It's much more of a digital process now. But I'm pretty comfortable with that thing at this point, including this new software. I'd have to learn Toon Boom, which I've been looking at YouTube videos of getting the lay of the land. It looks pretty straightforward. And I've seen a really good video that talked about how apparently it's not intuitive for some, but they were able to explain exactly how so. I'll have to also get back to a student soon, a couple students, 2 students, and do commissions. But it took a minute to update my CVs and things and write a cover letter and email it to their HR. Applying to studios these days is a little more complicated now because the online portal system and stuff doesn't work as well for people if you don't have some of the baselines. They're going to eliminate you for it if not. So I'm talking about degrees and things. I'm some people would describe self-trained. I don't like using that term because I studied lots of teachers, but I wasn't in classes. I was self-directed. And so what I want to do, make these lighter. And more to the point, I dropped out of school. I dropped out of high school in grade 11. So it's kind of funny that I teach art now. But I mean, that's not a class where, like in the field, in theory, ability matters more than qualifications. But people use things like experience and education to screen applicants because they get so many applicants. So I understand why, but it's a problem when you don't even have a high school diploma. And they look at things like education first. So I prefer to seek out contact information. I know people working there already, so that's helpful. I could ask someone for their HR department's email if it was possible to write them publicly. And I've sent the letter there explaining why and providing my references, samples and such. Check them still on hold. Yeah, let's make that a little bit lighter too. I still want that outer border to be dark. It's supposed to be a strawberry blonde redhead. So I'm just looking for the right balance of values and shadows. Let's go back to wash. That's very nice. I have to try the other brushes, but you know, in general, it's good to keep things simple. You don't want to be switching around, waste a lot of time finicking and fussing with different brushes. Definitely experiment with them and figure out a few that work, and that's a way of sort of dialing in a style for a specific project. I'll use these tools and not those, that kind of thing. But very light touch, very light touch. What does this brush do if I use the slide? That's effective. So I'm doing very soft strokes. It's going to blend nicely. They're very, very light, both in touch and in my settings. And, oh, I see someone's in the chat. And that lets me build structure slowly. I should put in my grid though. So I figured out a hack for avoiding the problem of zooming in. You can open another window and like have it up in another window so you see the whole page. That could work, and I've been doing that. But I wanted, when I'm in it, I don't want to have to zoom in and out or even look at around other things. I want a sense of scale in place. So that, there we go. That means, zoom out, having a visual marker to work with is really useful. So why is it so coming? Well, I don't know, but I agree, it can be. It's very meditative work. Where did I put that folder? The first, there we go. That. So let's go back and put a copy of that in Dream Life. You guys can't. I'm in my menus for a second, getting things set up. So that file I want to grab, and you can see it's very light pink dots, and they're exactly 2 for an inch. For oh, I should check image size. I don't want to change it, but I want to read it. And inches is 400 at 30. So that's different. I was doing that higher even. But it's about the same aspect ratio. So I can just count them and line them and count them. Yeah, that'll work. And I gave it the standard thing, so it'll be about 1/2 inch. So let's just paste her in. Move that for a second. Bring in some guides. Oops, too far. There we go. That to be continued has actually got to get taken out. Just realized. That was from when I was going to hold the storytelling at this page for our Mind Engine. Do it as an installment. But I'm going to do more. I can go into Photoshop, take it out, but it's probably easy enough just to go in and draw over it. Yeah, we'll do that. Save some time fussing around different programs. Part of the reason I've made the switch to Clip Studio is that I'm finding my very out-of-date old version of Photoshop to be getting quite laggy, and I wasn't really interested in signing up for a license. Not a license, a subscription, I mean. So let me see what we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Definitely not. So that should be, it's 8 in all, but we're losing half each side, so 7. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's the 7th one's off page. Is that working? Wait a minute. Feels like it moved. Oh, I guess it all is moving. Alright, let's see. What happens if I just size it to the page? Roughly. Is it crooked? No, it's the screen. Okay. Does that fit? No, it's not lined up exactly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a little too small. 7. So I need to bring that out. I know what I will do. Delete. And I don't really need those outside dots. I just need the ones inside the safe area. So that will make it a lot easier. So I need to check again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's the one inside just that I'm trying to bring. Oh. Is that right? Let's save it there and see. I don't know if you guys, I'm looking at my screen, you guys probably can barely see these dots. But if I zoom in, yeah. I want to be right on the lines. And then does that do it for me for over here? So close, so close. Well, you know, it's actually not too important to be more precise than this, because what I do then is make that on multiply. I usually also have it way down here just to be safe. And I've got these dots in my field of view as I'm working all the time. They're not going to be part of the final art, but I can see exactly how close to the screen I am. There is 1 inch, right there is 1 inch square plus a little bit. So every 2, this is a half an inch, so that's 1 inch square. So it helps me keep a sense of scale and perspective of the work. So I won't get too bogged down in fussing with tiny little details. So if light's coming from there, I actually want to have some highlights like this. Yeah. And then that's a little deeper. I think this line needs to move. It'll have to be yeah, it's better. Oops. There we go. Yeah. I dig it. All right. Let's do a quick mask selection. All layers. We want to get rid of my dots for a second. Select a D. And let's expand that. 2. There we go. And go back to wash. Oh, we're back. No do the hunching. I need to get one of those like bondage vest things I've seen. Too small. I want a big fat wash brush. And yeah, to start. I can knock the clouds out. That's better. Yeah. That's what we're looking for. Yeah. And now I gotta do that one next to it because I didn't look at it closely and notice before that I had to do 2. Pen mode. Something I'm looking forward to trying is looking at demo videos. I saw the colorize tool, which is a great flatters trick. That selected area. Boom. Same trick. We do the wall panels. Yes, I want to do all of this. One go. Let's do. Anything missing? Looks like I'll select. Go for it all. That looks fine. Excellent. So light from above, going down to shadow here. This whole area is okay. Shadows from her, shadows in the windows. What's going on? Why is that? There we go. This stuff, that stuff, and it's loose, but like when I did the ink washes, I'm not an ink washer who works towards always coloring inside the lines. I like doing a lot of slightly messier work intentionally. So here, likewise, I'm very intentionally trying to. What's going on? There we go. Very intentionally trying to. I don't like that. Too dark. Leave it the same degree of organic. Work with that. So if I start a stroke outside of the selection area, it just won't work. Interesting. Good to know. Yeah, yeah. I'm liking it. So, I think we'll make dark seats. Make that pop a little. Keep it simple. Select all of it. And I've already sort of done these, but I want to. I'm going to have to magic wand those. So let's expand selection first, and then grab the rest. It's like walking to that outside line. Remember to turn that off. There we go. I don't want that right now. Cool tool when I need it, but now is not the time. Interference. Yeah. Back to the brush. Yeah, flatter, it's okay. Right. So now I just want to. That's good enough. And gradient. So edge, shape, opacity. Yeah, there we go. I need one more layer. Forgot about shadows. Multiply. And I think we need to select a little wider because I want shadows to. Okay, I could. There. Yeah. There we go. All right, so I'm happy with the toning. I come back and tweak a little, but what I want to see now is if I can recreate the textures. If I can't, but there's another way to do it, I might go back over the pages I have done in Dream Life and try a different method within green space. Textures. Yeah, it should be a copyable thing, looks like. Opacity 52%, so good to know. Select all, copy, and there we are. So it's exactly cancel, same size. What was I using as a layer effect? Color burn. Color Baron. And 5-2. I can type. That's good. I hadn't tried that before. Well, sweet. Looks exactly like what I want. Baby. Max is happy. All right. Let's save this puppy. What was the page name? What's this one? So now we're doing Dreamlife page 2, page 11, tones. All the work. All the work. Art 2. Oh, there's no right. That's fine. Save. Just check. There it is. Excellent. So we are pleased. I think the strategy for that roof line maybe we're gonna paint something in here. Let's do the bus. Bus is fun. This is my imaginary modified version of sort of like a schoolie I saw online with a few of my own touches. 7 is better. Small brush. Yes. I think maybe also these should not be pure black. Wash, erase them out, erase them out. All that stuff for sure. I think that too. That's supposed to be the rim. Yeah, that's the rim. That's what I was trying to draw. Probably do a little shadow. The nice thing about having that texture layer on is that it starts looking a lot more like what my eyes used to in terms of judging values. Hey, what's going on? Oh, I'm in white. That's why. How did I get into white? Is that white? Oh, I'm confused. Pen mode. There it is. Strange. I wasn't sure what's happening there, but it seems to have sorted itself out. That figure I'm doing right now, this dude with the mohawk, you see him down here. It's not exactly a portrait, but that is Finding Simon. It's a guy on YouTube whose videos I watched quite a bit when I was drawing this. I still watch them. He's trying to build a solar catamaran cruising junk style. I think it's going to be junk style sails. Although I think right now he's trying to find sails. No, it's not trying to find. Sorry, masts that he can afford. It's very DIY and low budget what he's doing. And he used to live in a van. And I think he's like, by trade, a videographer, a photographer, kind of media guy. And then he decided to go into the seas. I wonder how many of the folks who are doing sort of living on the road stuff. So what people talk a lot about are the lower footprint and freedom aspects, which all makes sense. And I always thought it was a cool idea. But I wonder how many of them are also kind of secretly prepping. And prepping in the sense of like the idea of like sitting in a fortified place with enough supplies is actually not how things usually go. When things kind of hit the fan, you want to be mobile and well stocked, but like able to survive and be scrappy and on the move and migrate if necessary. And I think van life and boat life, I guess is what they call it. A little bit of that in there. There's a little bit of that in there. Oh yeah, Raised by Wolves is That was good. I watched the first few. I don't know, it's a little weird, but I like the weird. I was not sure what to expect because I have not been a fan of Ridley's more recent work. So it's very almost theatrical feeling in ways. But it worked for me. It's interesting. I look forward to seeing what happens next. It definitely was visually interesting and novel in some ways. It really made me think of Doctor Who a lot. It felt a lot like the kind of aesthetics and design strategies of a high budget Doctor Who production. Which isn't a bad thing. I just hope it's not as random and narratively erratic as Doctor Who can get at times. I haven't watched the new Mars mission one yet. I was just looking at it. I hear it is also more drama than sci-fi. And I think Raised by Wolves feels high concept sci-fi, and like I said, sort of feels like a theatrical thing. Like you could totally put what I've seen so far in the TV show on a stage and find ways to make a lot of it work. Has this very theatrical, operatic visual feel about it. Simple, clean designs. They work if you don't think about them too hard. How dark do I want the tree to be? Let's just do the texture and then I'll go back and knock it back if I want it more. I have to finalize light source when I'm doing the ink lines because a lot of the black spotting is informed by the light source then. I often have ideas about the light source. This is a question from the chat. How do I decide the darks was the exact wording, but shadows and darks. And so light source is shadows, but another thing you can think about with darks as well is I'm doing black and white here, so tonal variation stands in for color to a degree. So at the beginning of the video, you'll have seen me working on her hair, which is meant to be a strawberry blonde, redhead, light redhead, and so that color, that value, along with like the lightening of some of the line work, is meant to suggest, along with her eyebrow there, her hair color. Right now I'm doing the rich greens of leaves, which is, if you look at a color wheel, so this is another part of the answer. So, like I said, the values are partly light source, and then when you're trying to suggest color values in wash work and in black and white art, and you look at a color wheel, you'll see if you desaturate one and you turn into a black and white image, yellow is basically almost white. It's the lightest value color, like a pure yellow. A light blue and a very light blue and turquoise colors, things like that. They're like next. As you move into the reds, the values definitely get darker pretty quickly. So orange, I'd say, is like a 50-50 orange, so half red, half yellow, is going to be like 25% value for tone, 100% being black. Don't hold me to that. It might be a little light, a little darker, I'm not sure, but in that ballpark. 50% is going to be a rich green or into the reds. Purples are some of the darkest. None of them are black, but you can get if you're trying to just pick something that's purple and black and white, you want a pretty dark tone to suggest, like purple royal robes. I would do a very dark gray with slight highlights. And then part of it also is just composition. So the overall balance and how much you use and how you create a structure in the image by spotting simplified values. So like when I look at this panel and squint, the shapes I see, and it feels very open when you squint at it. It's a light open, and it's supposed to feel like she's traveling, and it's airy, and yeah. This tree, for example, it's simpler and lighter. I think I'll probably go for as dark, maximum about 50% value. And I'm scribbling because I do want to continue with the theme of suggesting a leafy texture. I should turn my grids on so I keep track of my dots. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty small. Don't get too busy. See, that's the thing, is these pink dots. Oopsie. Zoom. There we go. 1, 2, 3 pink dots. That's an inch. So these are quite fine details of the page. I don't want to be overworking them. It's going to be lost. And to make the eye see what I want it to see, I just need the suggestion of the pattern of values for a leafy texture. And then this is going to be dark foreground. Tree. Is that? What's that tree? Yeah. Okay. Nice. Really like the way these brushes respond to pressure sensitivity. It's more intuitively close than the Photoshop experience was to working on paper with ink wash, but at the same time simpler. Like I'd have to make multiple passes to push the darkness here, go dip and get more ink in the mix. And here I can just use pressure, so it expedites the whole process very nicely. Just fly through this stuff. Bigger. That's getting into bleed, so don't want to overwork it, but create a nice sense of form, and zoom in and go small. I love it. Anyone's wondering why I'm going on like this is the first time I've done this. In Clip Studio it is. So just enjoying the process of finding a good digital alternative to my old analog techniques. Part of the mission for Dream Life Book 2, for me personally, is to push my skills. The first book, big sort of hidden sub-agenda for doing it for me as an artist and a storyteller, was to explore writing and technical details and the process. It was very slow because of the way I did it, but near the end there, the process was getting refined. It was starting to pick up speed. I still wouldn't recommend, if you're trying to make money, the process I was using as a commercial venture, but for storytelling and trying to do richer books that are, I hope it eventually gets lots of readers and has a long life, well past my own. But I'm aspiring to making something that would be worth that legacy, which means attention to detail and richness of narrative, and it has something to say about the human condition. I want to connect these, so I'm trying to create, still keep this light feeling that I have for this tree in the background, but also visually create a nice tangent, overlapping edges to help push the depth. Overlapping edges is like really good basic visual tool aside from linear perspective to induce more depth in your compositions. And it's a lot easier to maintain and execute than linear perspective too, so I would say it is wise to make use of it. Make it work for you. Yep. There's 5 people watching now. Ooh. It's a crowd. If this is your first time around here, and you're interested in what you're seeing, you can get book 1, digital version, or even order a print copy from, if you look in my description text, there's a link to Gumroad, and there you will find the option to buy Dream Life Book 1 in print or digital. It's also up on Comixology and Amazon as a print order, and Kindle. I believe there's a Kindle version. I remember uploading a Kindle version recently. I'm not totally, I've been actually just started reading some comics that I hadn't had copies of anymore for a while on Kindle, and it's workable, but boy, they really force because I know from formatting it, the file sizes are very challenging. They're quite compressed, and it's difficult to do anything very large in color. My Revolvers anthology books that I did sort of push it right to the limit. Mind Engine, the book this is going to go in first, in serial as I work on it. I'm publishing Mind Engine. First issue is going to be due in the spring. It will be black and white, so maybe about 100 pages, a bunch of different short stories and projects. It should be a reasonable size for Kindle. But I was disappointed about the resolution. It's a little low. Definitely get better resolution with Comixology if you're going for digital. And of course you get really good resolution if you get the digital version right off Gumroad. So that's right from me, and you get to download it a bunch of times. And as I recall, I don't have DM stuff on it, so while I would like you to get your friends to buy my book, you will be able to share it and recommend it to people, and you will essentially own a copy, even if it's just ones and zeros. I also have my book Therefore Repent on there with Jim Monroe, the book I do with Jim Monroe, the author and filmmaker these days. And then yeah, I think that's good enough for that. I want it to be light and fade out. And we're going to quickly stroke in every other flag on this strip, because patterns of information create richness for the eye as long as they're not overly busy. Oops, not that one. So that would be plain. So this is going to be dark, dark, light, dark, dark, hope, dark, dark. That's fine. I want this one to be dark and this one to be dark. And that way they play off each other nicely. Help frame. And then eventually when it falls out of sync, that helps sell the perspective. Light, dark, light, dark. Dark, dark, sometimes listen to music while I'm working, but on this particular occasion, I need just quiet to focus. I then often start humming to myself a little. Holds. Just a bit. Because she's got a lot to her there. Details don't really matter because it's a tiny. Let's do that grass. Washes. Dark. All right. I'm going to do a gradient there. And I think it'll be easier just to lasso her. Knock out. That. Boopity boop. Yeah. Good enough. Good enough. Washes. Yeah, wash will work. Nice, that works. That's very akin to the spot effect that I use in Photoshop for the same thing. Sweet. Oh, nice. I like that. That's good. Lovely. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yep. Great blending tool. Hey, Clip Studio, you want to sponsor me or some shit? I will be happy to endorse your shit. Oh yeah. This is going to definitely be a much smoother process than what I was doing before with Photoshop. Nice. Helps with that. Anything that's feeling even a little over detailed, I can just really quickly simplify and make it chill out. So let's go in here. I want to be smaller. Yeah. Oh, that's right. So let's just go here to Navigator. So, this knocker. Oh, what? Pen mode. I'm in the eraser. On the washes. I should not be using the lines. Weird. What am I doing with my settings? Brush size. This is not right. So, oh, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's as simple as that. It's actually a there we go. So it's a particular multiple layer type thing. All right. Good to know, but not what I wanted to use at all. There we go. This is what I was looking for. So I can go back and forth between brush and pen mode very spontaneously. Just draw with how long have I been going? Oh, really? An hour and a half almost. I am getting hungry. Definitely need to sit up, stretch, save the work. And I think I'm going to call it a stream anyway. Grab a bite to eat. Maybe come back to this. Water. Oops. Too heavy. There we go. want to finish that background before I get up. Let's do that. Is everything on the wash layer? For magic wand, select all layers, yes. So that should work. I don't want this flag selected. I do want that selected. Okay. Okay. I want to polygon. Sweet. I was looking at that before and couldn't figure out where they'd hidden the tool, but then did later. Read where it should be. Made a mental note for the next time. I would need that. And we don't want any of this selected. There we go. Let's have a quick investigation, and we want to amend to include this. Oh, I'm in polygon one still. Dope. That's okay. Magic wand, magic wand. No, I want, let's see, there we go. These can be a little sloppy. Yeah. All right. I think I'm ready. I'm on wash. I want to go back to gradient. Yep. It's done. So let's, lay now. Yeah. Get there. Yeah, I think with the line hold, that'll do her. So holds, brush, you know what, not even brush, go to pen, and white, and okay. No. So my watch there. I think these should be darker. And this lady, I never did her gear. Oh. Holds 50%. I'm not red. This is going to be black and white when it's done. Edit, transform, tone correction, saturation, get rid of any color, desaturate. So what I'm doing now, hopefully will lend itself to atmospheric perspective. Get rid of the pure blacks. That's still answering that first question from Dreamer. Who just asked, how long or what did you do early on help from earn through drawing comics, like earning steady and reasonable living? What would your advice become Beginners do looking for one sense, put yourself out there, instinct, etc. But what really, what is that? Well, so I started in the late 80s. And so I did comics on my own when I was learning. You're still developing skills. I wouldn't expect to make a living at it. And the same goes for illustration and other art. It's not going to be profitable until you get quite good. So just let that be a thing. I think I did I had a comic. Fun story. It was a story I came up with when I was in high school, when I was about 16. Very inspired by X-Men, but it was a bit closer in plot, actually, to what they did with that, what was it called, Mutant X or something, TV show, which was kind of interesting also in that because they shot it, the exterior of the secret lab where they all hung out. It was the Toronto Waterworks, which when I was a little kid, I grew up just up the street from. So when I was drawing this comic, I lived a few blocks away from the location they used as a mysterious lab in their TV show. But anyway, my Matrix was, about human mutation changing the world. Whoops, wrong there. And then I drew it once about, how many pages did I do? I still have them in a folder somewhere. I think about this is a big range, between 15 and 30 pages. And they were inked by my classmate, Brian. And but I mean, it's one of those things where you're learning as you're going. And I wasn't totally happy with the way Brian was interpreting my line. He had this really angular thing going on, and I did not. So, as much as it, in theory, was a cool idea to work with him at first, and I learned a lot, I decided to start over again, but ink it myself and learn how to ink properly. And so I pretty much scrapped everything I did there. And then I did another whole issue, first issue, as a zine, after I dropped out of high school. And I never went back to school, by the way. So, take that how you may. Washes. Then I put that zine out, photocopy zine. So that's me. That's this is the late 80s. That's like the equivalent of Instagram, or using social media to post your work. So it was even more local because it's zines are just in the shops that you get them into locally. So this is printing little booklets in a photocopier. They'd make a few hundred maybe at the most. I think that first zine I probably didn't make more than 50 or so, and sold at local shops. So it gets you lets you test out all of the steps of making a book, which is a good thing. And these days, though, you have a real question about whether you want to go digital, stay digital, or if you want to get into print at all. That's a valid question for creators that you can ask yourself. But I think definitely the experiment of doing something like a zine, a small run, just so you go through the whole process of putting together the publication and doing the graphic design, and packaging it, and then trying to experiment with how you present it online in terms of the marketing of the idea. These are all skills you're going to want to learn as a creator, and so it's a small scale thing is a good way to do that. And so maybe that's an Instagram page or some page where you post your comics on the regular, or if you're just doing drawings and illustrations, you're posting that on the regular. And if you're trying to make a living from it, that was the ultimate gist of the question, I think. Well, once you get good enough that you can compete professionally, then yeah, you start taking what you've learned from those early explorations and you get your stuff out there and you shop it around and you look for jobs. And there's a few interesting resources for the job looking these days. Like there's a site called Lightbox. If you Google it, I think you'll find it. And it has listings for what people got paid with which publishers or companies and what kind of work there was. And that does a bunch of things. It gives you an idea of what the going rates are for things. It also helps you see what companies are active and who's hiring and doing stuff, what kind of stuff they're doing. So it's a multifaceted resource. You should definitely check that out. And then there are there's things like Fiverr, and there's a million ways, depending what kind of work you want to do and what kind of market you're pursuing. There's a million ways to try to develop a customer base. So I don't think that's a subject that I can exhaust while I'm working on something on a live stream. But yeah, I think one of the part of that I would definitely emphasize a little bit is don't be in a rush. It depends on where you are, dreamer, in terms of your development of your work. Maybe if you think you're ready to go out there and your stuff's like professional and you can deliver on demand, punctually, what someone wants and needs from you as a client, and you're able to communicate, you understand your rights, know how to read a contract, ideally know how to write a plain language contract for yourself. You should really get if you're thinking about being a professional creative of any kind of like illustration or arts, design, graphics, then you really want to pick up the Graphic Artists Guild Handbook to Ethical Pricing and blah blah blah. I forget the rest of the title. It will show up. They've got a new edition on. You can buy off of Amazon or from their site, and they also on their site now they've started offering chunks of the information that comes in the big book as broken out subjects. Like I think there's a digital handbook that's available in digital format for a bit less money. You're paying for just that chunk. And as a resource in general, I grew up with. My mother works in animation. It's Arna Selznick. She's a director and storyboard artist. Just had a film come out last year and is cleaning up in the awards circuit for kids animation, which is cool. Congratulations, Mom. And she what was I going to say about that? I'm relevant to my subject here, but I've lost my thread for a second. Let me think. Oh yeah, so I grew up around the arts. That's what I was talking about. And yep, I've officially lost the train of thought. Something about making a living. Da, 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 da. When I first started making a living, it was actually, so it's not very applicable to now, but it was at Marvel Comics. I sent my stuff, photocopies, because they still accepted just photocopies in the mail, DC and Marvel editors. And I did some tests for DC, drew a couple of Sandman pages and Shade the Changing Man pages. And I think if I'd kept harassing them, I could have gotten work out of them, but they were a little wishy-washy. Something I came to recognize later on is that Karen and I think too as well Stuart Moore, who were the editors I was dealing with, had a particular aesthetic, and it wasn't about the art being eye-popping at all. They really wanted to emphasize the narrative, which is something I'm cool with, but I would disagree that the art needs to be sort of downplayed, and they would intentionally pick artists who were a little understated in their styles, and just sort of service the story, did not show off much or do anything particularly dramatic, in my opinion, in terms of the work I saw that did get printed. And then some of the things that were said to me in the feedback notes from the first batch of tests as well, you know, when I learned that later on, that was a policy, definitely made a little more sense. But they were humming and hawing and asking me to do some more tests, which actually at the time I wasn't, you know, bothered by, because the comments were a bit weird, but doing more tests was fine because they were paying for them, about half regular commercial page rates. So that's cool. Yeah, I'll draw some more for you for money. Pretty decent money too. It's like 150 or something per test page. And I'm making $300 a DC for actual finished pages. Black and white ink art. And as I was doing the second batch of tests, I got a call from an editor in Marvel. I'd sent one package to them because they'd had Epic Comics and all of the horror comics like Clark Barker stuff. And that ended up being relevant because they ended up asking me light source in that poll's wrong, but I don't give a fuck right now. Moving on. They ended up asking me about doing a fill-in issue. An artist had bailed halfway through an issue of Nightbreed, which was a Clive Barker film franchise and novel. They had a comic book spin-off. And I did that in record time. It's actually faster than I've ever gone. And then I did a second issue on my own, which they liked. And they offered me a book and a brand new line called the Saint Sinner. And the line, sorry, the book was like Saint Sinner, and the line was called the Razor Line for the Barkerverse. And I drew the first 4 issues and inked the 5th. I think that's it. We may do 5th issue and ink the 6th. I can't remember for sure now. Richard Pace. The issue that I decided to quit on, Richard Pace pencil, and I did ink it. But I'd had a bit of my fill, first of all, with the editor, and also had decided that monthly books were not for me. They're grinding. And it was taking the joy out of the process for me. It was just too much. 22 pages a month for months on end. I was feeling burnt out by the second issue already. So, and I didn't like the fact that I wasn't able to process the story and develop the work and see where it was ending frequently, because we were just doing an installment for 22 pages. I had no idea what was going to happen in the next issue, so I couldn't foreshadow things to come. I was reliant on the writer to do that, which, I mean, to a point, I'm okay with that, but that became a thing as things progressed, and I just found that it never seemed to go anywhere, that story ideas and threads got left all over the place, and it felt very unfulfilling as an artist to work on things that never went anywhere and felt unresolved. And not worth the stress and even physical damage I was doing to myself in order to meet deadlines, if it wasn't going to be more rewarding. So I went and worked in animation for a while, walked away from comics for a bit, and that worked. I'd grip around animation, so I think I mentioned that's why I was talking about that. So I went into animation and made my living working at Nelvana Studios and a couple TV shows for a few years. That was the late 90s. And then I decided that I didn't want to stay in Toronto because the Toronto merger had happened, and I knew that that meant that they were going to remove the rent control, which they did, and rents were going to start getting kind of insane, which they have. And I wanted to go somewhere cheaper. And I used to visit Montreal all the time, so I moved here. And then I worked freelance illustrator, started developing my portfolio for illustration work, and I also picked up local work in animation. I worked on Heavy Metal Fact 2 for a bit, and then development on some shows that didn't happen. And a if you watch Heavy Metal Fact 2, there's a lava pit scene, and the lava pit location is a design by some preliminary stuff was done by another artist who then quit for similar reasons that I ended up leaving the production later on. It was a bit of a shit show, but he started, did some really cool stuff, and then I was handed, based on his initial concept art, I was handed the location design work. So I did the specific designs based on the aesthetics that he had built up in his sketches. And then the director quit, because the line producer quit because of the director. That's what they said. And when they rearranged things, they threw out most of the work I'd done with the director up to that point, except for the lava pit scene, and then asked me what I'd been doing. And I just pointed at the trash can they just filled, and they said, well, we don't think it's working out, and sent me packing. So went back to freelancing and hustling to make connections in Montreal, and got to know a film designer, art director, film art director. We did a lot of telefilm TV shows in Montreal. Steve Henry. And I drew concept art for locations and props and did some prop fabrication for him, and that was cool. I would like to get back into that. I love watching Adam Savage work, and I would love to do that kind of work. That would be awesome. Hey Adam, if you ever happen to be watching this, hint hint, nudge nudge. So then I also started doing more personal comics. I decided a while back, like in the late 90s, I did a graphic novel for DC, and I did some random stories for Piranha Press, big books. Those big books were like themed large collections of short stories. I did a few stories for that, different subjects. Reefer Madness, gambling, barbed wire, and Polly Adler. She was a madam in the Roaring 20s, I think, Prohibition era. That one didn't get published, but I love the art on that one. And then I think if you go to my website, salgodsam.com, you can find I've scanned and uploaded those pages. I knew I wanted to make comics, so I was practicing writing, and then so I was trying to make more and more time for myself, get better paying commercial illustration jobs, so that I could have more time to draw on my own, buy myself free time on my own comics and write them. I got a grant to do a graphic novel from Canada Council for the Arts. If you're not in Canada, that's not really an option maybe, but there's other grants. Creators for Creators in the US, and most of the, I think actually it's international. If you've never published a comic and you've got some promise, got a solid idea, pitch it to Creators for Creators. It's a huge grant, $30,000 US, to fund getting your work done. And then it's created by a group of creators and publishers. So you have a lot of advisors built in, and a number of publishers who, if they really like what you come up with at the end, may pick the book up, and that takes so much sweat and stress off your hands. And it's very creator oriented, like Image is one of the companies associated with it. So it's not like they're going to take the book from you unless you want to sell the rights away or something. But they'll help you get it out there, and that's awesome. They're trying to do what the Xeric grants used to do, which is an old grant system that I forget which one it is, but one of the Teenage Ninja Turtle guys set up ages ago. And the only catch being I can't apply because I've had books published. It's just for newbies. What else do I do? I think this backpack's not quite there. It's a little darker. Oops. Brush mode. Brush mode. I want to be in brush mode. And I've done some Kickstarter projects. That can go both ways. Dream Life. So Dream Life, the first Dream Life, you're looking at the pages from book 2. Book 1 was one of the things I got a grant to work on. And the grant for that helped me finish the art, but then like explicitly those grants, Canada Council graphic novel, or actually creative writing grants, they're not for the printing. They're just for keeping the lights on, paying your bills. They actually have some restrictions on what you can spend them on, and so it helped a lot. Bought me a couple of years of just being able to work on my own comics without having to do anything else. I still picked up some freelance. I got hired to do Therefore Repent by Jim Monroe, which was funded by grants, but he was the grant recipient, not me. And then I drew that while I was working on writing Dream Life, and then spent another year and a half drawing most of, I think like 3/4, I would say, of Dream Life Book 1. And then, or actually that's right, I had 3/4 of Dream Life Book 1 penciled by the end of it. I still had a lot of inking and finishing to do. And I had some big writing hang-ups too, if I recall. Scenes that I was skipping because I wasn't sure what to do with them. Grant money ran out, so I did a few other odd jobs, but then got lucky with a second grant to finish it. And that took a long time, that project. But when it was done, I then had an Kickstarter to publish the book. It actually was an Indiegogo. But then that got delayed because of complications. Health things happened, so I had to postpone, and then I finally did a Dream Life Kickstarter to print the book and got it published. So, long journey for 162-page graphic novel. And here I am starting the journey on book 2. I don't know if that really exactly answered your question. These days, I guess, like, yes, Instagram and stuff like that. You gotta post it there, but then you also have to share that and figure out how to share it efficiently, and probably use social media devices like Buffer or Hootsuite so that you don't have to be online all the time. You need to be able to turn the web off and get to work, which is a challenging thing to do these days. And then I really like, it's not very fashionable, but if you're looking for a free site that allows for very large art files, so you can do big images, big comics, you could always use a profile on Ello, ELLO dot, is it .co or .com? I can't remember now. It was, people bragged about it being a Facebook killer when it first got launched a few years back, but that is not what it's become. But it is actually a really great image hosting site. You could also use things like ArtStation and stuff, but Ello is a little less genre specific or more flexible. It does have a lot of traffic, so you're going to have to promote it, so you could post your comics big there. If you get into Patreon, that's not a bad idea, and you can post your comic on it, so you can use Patreon as the host for the webcomic. And then you can also have that so that only some of the posts maybe are public, and you have to pay, subscribe to Patreon to pay to see them, maybe. Depends on your philosophy about, charging for your work or giving it away. And whether you have a readership that will support paying for your work. It's an important detail. Not too dark. But there's also, webtoons. Is that the right name? And tapas and those kinds of things. The tap to scroll app driven publishing platforms. Those are really useful, and they have some built-in financial support options too. Like their own alternative to Patreon, I think. And then there's what else? Oh yeah, Comixology Submit, their indie submit form. So if you really want to keep the classic graphic novel / pamphlet comic book aesthetic, then that's a browser and app-based digital comic publishing platform. It's often the languages. Digital comics are comics that emulate book comics that are online in digital format, and web comics are comics that mostly tend to emulate something more like a newspaper serial comic, so comic strips and full or half page tabloid series comics. So it's a fine distinction, but there is a difference. Like a lot of the newspaper and, well, a lot of web comics, like newspaper comics, lean narratively. There are some ongoing stories that manage to pull it off, but even then, most of them usually have a narrative beat structure. So beats are like in a page. If you look at a comics page, like this one, narrative beats are, you could just count panels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But then there will be text, and then if we have multiple text, did I put my lettering in this one yet? I did not. There might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So those can become beats, the word balloons, the statements, the ideas, the rhythm of the language. And then there's the visual. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sort of taking in the room, or you could think about them as visual going around. 6, 7, 8, and going through, and visual beats. And those are different ways of setting up visual and narrative rhythms in your story, and it affects the impression of time and space and pace along with the cutter width and where you drop gutters and bleed panels like this. It's complicated, but the way those work in web comics that are modeled on the newspaper style comics, they tend to be faster paced, and you want to get it done in one. You want to have some sort of climax or denouement in the last panel, even though the story continues in the next page. The readers were going to see that this week, or they might go in and binge, but they're very likely to encounter your comics one at a time, and so each page needs to stand as its own 3-act structure or narratively engaging little tidbit. And so that's a thing that you need to design if you're doing that format into the writing style, versus Dream Life is a much slower burn, longer narrative. So it's more of a digital comic online. It emulates book reading habits, and we'll favor that visually. All right, that's enough yakety yak for me. Hey, so yeah, this is my official 10,000 subscriber live stream. If you are watching this in the live stream or later, go hit that subscribe button and the bell and the like. Smash them all. Pick up your monitor and smash it. No, don't do that. But help me out here. Follow the stuff. Help me get more of the ad dollars. I actually, it's not a whole hell of a lot, but it's up to about $20 a month now, which is kind of cool. Like, that's really not enough to live on by any stretch of imagination, but it could start becoming significantly helpful. If it, I'd be happy if I got to 60 or something a month, because then that's like my internet bill. That'd be sweet. So share lots of my videos and get me lots of views, and maybe that'll help. And then over on patreon.com/salgood, you can pledge $2 to read my comics, $5 to get social media portraits, digital social media portraits, and $10 to be a student patron, which buys you some time with me and sending your work for feedback. Which reminds me, I have to look at some student work, give them feedback. And yeah, spiltink.gumroad.com will get you an opportunity to just buy my comics. Do it directly, simply that way. You get access to all my comics digitally at the $2 Patreon pledge level. So it's sort of like a slow payment process. Hopefully you stick around even longer, because then I'll start sending you the print versions too. All right. Good night, folks. Thanks for your questions, Dreamer. And thank you, yes. I guess is that lag on the chat? Thanks for your mom. Or congratulations to your mom. Because I talked about her a while back. But anyway, yes. Look up. Hope there's some more chats there. Look up Arne Selznick. The most. It's the most incredible thing. Hang on a second. The most amazing. Ooh, is that it? No. The most magnificent thing. Here. We'll leave this video with a little taster tidbit. I should be able to go here, do that. Oh yeah. Okay. And now I want to go to this thing. That one. Window capture. I want. Yeah, there it is. Boom. Okay. I make this a little bigger. I'll go over here, make this a full screen. And here's the trailer for the most magnificent thing. That's Whoopi Goldberg. Nelvana. I used to work there. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't want to play this whole thing because I might get my video demonetized. But it's a cool show she did. My mom directed, based on a woman's children's book. It's pretty cool, but actually quite a bit different. They really kind of, the book's its own thing. It works well as a kid's book, but it doesn't it wouldn't hold up as a I think it's a 20-minute short film. I can't remember. It's a short feature, and so they needed to develop the story for a bit more, make it run for longer. But it worked out well. My mother's done other animation directing and stuff, but this was her first time directing a digital production, so she had a really interesting time learning the ins and outs of new production workflow and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, go check that out. So, okay, internet, I need to feed my face and do the things. Hello, Edu Plessis. So much detail. Thank you. I like the details. All right. Be good. Make art.